Hello everyone. I hope you guys are having a great day. Today, as you notice, we have the answer for mystery composer number 2, and he is Thomas Million Turpin. So let's continue, and I have some sites for you to look at. Let me get that set up. Okay. All right, this is from actually ragpiano.com, done by Bill Edwards, a great piano player for ragtime. And I'm just going to read a little bit. The words are tiny, but this is his blurb about Thomas Turpin. So let me get to that screen. There we go. So Tom Turpin was born in Savannah, Georgia, during the very busy period of Reconstruction after the American Civil War. Note that his draft card of 1917 shows a birth year of 1874, but the earliest records, usually the most accurate since they are closer to the birth, consistently point to 1871. His father, Honest John Turpin, I'll show you where I'm reading, sometimes listed as Jack, was a freed slave who became a political insider during this time. So the Turpins, with the household run by John's wife, Julia, or Lulu Waters Turpin, were fairly well off. Tom was one of 4 siblings, including his older brother, Charles Turpin, and younger sisters, Eleonora and Nanny. In the mid-1870s, the family moved briefly to Mississippi. Okay, and then by 1880, John had moved his family to St. Louis, where their legacy of saloon keeping started. They are shown here in the 1880 census, with Tom curiously listed only by his unusual middle name, Million, in 1885. That's a cool name. With the help of young Tom, his older brother Charles Turpin, John opened the Silver Dollar Saloon at 425 South 12th Street. That's funny. We have a Silver Dollar Saloon in Las Vegas, or we used to. I don't know if it's there anymore, which stayed in business for nearly 20 years, only to be razed for municipal expansion to accommodate the 1904 Lewis and Clark exposition. So we're going to talk about the World's Fair in St. Louis. That's what this is. They also call it the Louisiana Purchase Exposition. The Turpins also ran a livery stable for a few years. And then it says, while Tom was found to be a gifted pianist in his teens, he only saw it as a means to an end, preferring the ability to make money playing while pursuing other ventures. One of these was long considered to have been a failed investment with Charles in the Big Onion mine in Searchlight, Nevada, which Scott Joplin would later name a piano rag for. Okay, so you can go to this site and read more about him, and you can also see here that some of his rags are listed. Although there's not very many published rags, he probably did write a lot of rags. It's just that they weren't published. So he wrote the Harlem Rag. We have then another arrangement with Will Tyers, and then Bowery Buck, a Ragtime Nightmare, St. Louis Rag, Buffalo Rag, Siwash, Pan Am Rag, and When Sambo Goes to France. Okay, so we will look at some of these things next, and let me make sure my picture is right. All right, so I might have to adjust some things here. So let's look at next some photos from the St. Louis Fair. So that was really, he was preparing to have his music displayed there, the St. Louis Rag. So let's take a look at that, just some photos of the event itself. And the best place to find these pictures is on the Atlantic, I found. And you just type in whatever the World's Fair is, and then the Atlantic, and it'll usually come up, and you'll see a bunch of pictures. Now, talking about the fair briefly, I'm not going to go into great detail about this, but there's a lot of controversy here because the whole area was demolished. And this happened with all the World's Fairs in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And the idea, the narrative, I suppose, is that the buildings were made with something that was dissolvable. I guess it wasn't safe, so they made it so that they'd have to demolish them. But I don't know if that's really believable because some of those buildings are still standing today. But it was a mixture of hemp, and it was called staff. Today, I suppose, I read somewhere, I think it was on Grok, that you cannot make anything with hemp because of the regulations. Hemp is marijuana. So you can't do that anymore. But there was another video that I saw on Conspiracy R Us. He's really good talking about these buildings. And there was a lady who had a mixture that was called Code. It was spelled Coade. That was one of his recent videos, so look him up. And this, they think, was used to make the statues, to make them really lifelike looking. So let's take a look at some of these pictures. See if I can do this without... Oh, we get ads and everything. So here's a figure. Let me see if I got the picture looking right. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay, so this is at the Atlantic. I'm just going to move it up a little bit so you can see better. And so these are some pictures that were taken during this fair. This fair was held in 1904. Okay, let's keep going. So as you can see, there's a dome. Okay. And this is, oops, too far. Okay. I was trying to show you. There's the Ferris wheel. So there seems to be there was a Ferris wheel at the St. Louis Fair and the, wait, is this the, oh, this is the Chicago Fair. I'm so sorry. But they kind of look alike. They have similar buildings. But the discussions are on these websites, and YouTube artists are always talking about all the different fairs, how they have the same type of buildings. I guess that's why I got mixed up. That, and it's early. Okay, so here's the Ferris wheel from the Chicago Fair. So one of the things about Thomas Turpin was he was the first one to write a ragtime piece before it was introduced to the Chicago Exposition. That's what this is. Okay, and we'll look at a couple more of Chicago. But the focus is, of course, St. Louis. So here's some very pointy roofs. Now, again, I don't want to go into too much detail about this, but what I've heard about why they have all these really high spires on these buildings is they used to have dirigible airships, and they would like park there, and somehow they would get energy or they'd get refueled. And I think there was a way for them to climb down too on some of them. That's what they're saying. I'm not. It's just a theory, though. We don't really know. So here is the inside of the Chicago. And then you have to ask, did we have cranes back then to build this? This is okay. Well, that's interesting. So that's at the Chicago Fair. And there was a lot of display about, this is how America is going to be now. It's the greatest place to come to. And they tried to show diversity with all the different countries putting their own displays up, and also the innovations. Okay, so let's take a look at the video actually about, let's look at the St. Louis Fair next, because that's very similar looking. So this the Chicago Fair was 1893, St. Louis 1904. In 1903 they planned to have it, but there were some water problems and they had to fix that, so it took another year. Plus they had the Olympic Games in St. Louis. So this is the St. Louis. Let's go back. So here's that, what do you call it, spackle or whatever, to put on the, they're showing somebody using that. It seems to be some kind of a mold they're using, I would guess. And then, they're using some kind of putty around it to get that look. That's my guess. I don't know. Because there really is no information on exactly what it is. But it is amazing that there's all these statues and all these buildings with this very ornate looking features. And this is St. Louis. So Chicago's was also demolished. I think they left maybe a couple buildings, but this one was demolished to put up their arch. The St. Louis Arch. So here's... Now, as far as Tom Turpin goes, they, the ragtime... Okay, here you can see in the back. This is, I think this is the building where they had the music, if I'm not mistaken. But they only had the... This is all new to me, so... Put that forward. Okay, continuing on. So this is actually where the Cascades are. You see that dome building back there? And look how many people are there. Oh my gosh. They had millions of people, I think, show up to this fair. And then I lost my train of thought, what I was going to say about that, but... Oh, well. Oh, yeah, the entertainment. Okay, so the classical music, such as the symphonies by Beethoven and Mahler, and those people were played in the hall. But the really good music, the ragtime, was played on the pike. It was called the pike. And it was kind of like a little pathway along these buildings. And there were about... they said like 1,500 buildings that were made in like 2 or 3 years, if you can believe that. Anyways, so, and they all represented different countries, and they had different types of music playing along the pike, including the ragtime artists. Okay, let's move down. But ragtime was like the first popular music in America, so that's why it's so great. And here's some more pictures of these hats. And if you hear the term Mad Hatter, supposedly they put mercury in the lining of these hats, and people get sick, like mentally ill. So they don't make those anymore, thank goodness. Okay, here's some more buildings. Oops. Too far. Not going to spend too much time on this, but you can just look it up yourself. It's really cool to look at all the pictures. The pictures are very high quality too. So this almost looks like, no, this is St. Louis. So they had a Ferris wheel also, I guess. Corn Temple. That's the Corn Temple. Let's go back. Look at the Corn Temple. Okay. Well, that is very important. I mean, maze. Okay. And then they, of course, they displayed all the technology that was going to be new. I don't know what this is about. Let's see. Oh, it's an elephant made of almonds. How interesting. That's wild. And okay, and there's the typewriter. And what is this? Locomotive engines. And then we'll look at one more picture here. Look how elaborate these buildings are. This is just amazing. And again, this used some kind of special plaster for these statues. So really amazing buildings. And they demolished them. It's like, I would have liked to see them, Anyway. Okay, so let's look at this video. This video is pretty good about the festival. It's called Festival Hall. So I was right. I think it's this building. Let me fix the picture. Let's see. There, you can see it a little better. Like that. Okay. And then I don't know what's going to happen. I'm turning on the audio. Hope it doesn't flip out on me. Let's go up halfway, kind of. Okay, let's see if it... All right, so this is Festival Hall. So we're going to look at a couple minutes of this. This is from Great Documentaries. So please go there to see the whole thing called the World's Greatest Fair, full documentary. And they are talking about the St. Louis Fair, where Tom Turpin had the first rag piece called the Harlem Rag. Right? Okay, so let's see if we can...
Garde Republicaine of France, reputed to be the greatest band in the world. There were also two bands composed entirely of American Indians. The music of Beethoven, Liszt, Tchaikovsky, and Wagner was presented, as were tunes by Sousa, Victor Herbert, and Stephen Foster, and original music composed by the various band leaders at the fair. For fairgoers, the variety was dizzying.
I never enjoyed such good music as I did that evening when the band began to play. It just sent a thrill through me, and I sat with my eyes, mouth, and even ears open until I thought I would be able to get them back in their proper place again. Miss Lillian Schumacher.
One of the great achievements of the fair was the building of the great organ for Festival Hall. The organ's design was so innovative that many companies refused to attempt to build it. When finally completed by the Los Angeles Art Organ Company, it was the largest pipe organ in existence. It had more than 10,000 pipes, ranging from a half-inch to 37.5 feet in length. With some 1,600 electrical switches and 5 keyboards, it was capable of producing more than 17 billion distinct tonal combinations.
After the fair, it was purchased by Wanamaker's department store in Philadelphia, which is now Lord & Taylor, and it can be seen and heard twice a day.
not all of the music was played in Festival Hall or on the bandstands dotting the fairgrounds. Music along the pike was nearly non-stop.
The music on the pike was just unusual because many of the native tribes performed their music. Many of the people from different countries who had a concession on the pike performed their music. It was just kind of a free-for-all of music, just wonderful and fun and lively and loud.
Russian musicians played on native instruments. Japanese geisha girls sang and danced. In the Irish village, a band from Dublin performed, and a young Irish tenor named John McCormick became famous. The pike also featured a relatively new and burgeoning music style called ragtime.
Even though ragtime was so popular in St. Louis, it was really kept outside of the fairgrounds. It was a segregated musical form, essentially, and not music that was officially sanctioned by the exposition itself.
City fathers were afraid if they put ragtime on the official program that it would put all the other classical concerts in obscurity. It would take over too much.
It was the contemporary, popular music, but it was also, I suppose, like Elvis. You know, it's music that was frowned upon by probably the masses. Didn't think it was probably appropriate for such an exposition.
In the same way the King influenced rock and roll, the 1904 World's Fair helped take popular music in a whole new direction.
It brought together talents from all over the country. So this spurred a lot of creativity, exchange of ideas, and it was important because these were the true pioneers of the American popular music form.
Among the ragtime artists performing in St. Louis at the time was Tom Turpin, who wrote the St. Louis Rag for the fair. But perhaps the most famous name associated with ragtime and St. Louis was a 36-year-old son of a former slave, dubbed the King of Ragtime, Scott Joplin. Whether or not Joplin actually performed on the pike during the fair is a matter of question for ragtime aficionados. But what is certain is that Joplin did visit the fair and composed one of his best-loved rags, the Cascades.
Scott Joplin's involvement in the World's Fair was probably nothing more except commemorating it with the Cascades. There's a persistent tale that he played piano at the fair, but there's no evidence of this.
Many other songs and compositions were created for the fair, but perhaps the most enduring would be made famous by Hollywood 40 years later.
Meet me in St. Louis, Louis, meet me at...
Okay, next we're going to look at some music that Tom Turpin wrote, some of his most significant pieces. So let me get to that. Okay, this is called A Ragtime Nightmare by Tom Turpin in 1900. So please look up this site. So it looks like it's made for two pianos. I'm not sure if there's another extra person over there on the left, but it looks like it's just two pianos. And this is a great piece. So if you get a chance, look this one up. I'm going to say most of this music is free. If you go to IMSLP, you can just print out the music and go to Michael Chisholm's site. Okay, so let's take a look at this. Okay, that was great. So also we're going to look at a couple of his other pieces that were very popular during that time. And this next one, let's see if I can get it up first. It's performed by 16-year-old Zachary Jones. And this is the St. Louis rag. So this is a very famous rag that Tom Turpin tried to get well known, but he couldn't get it as popular as he wanted because the St. Louis Fair was held back a year. So after it started, it did become a pretty popular rag. And this is from the website World Championship Old Time Piano Playing Competition. This is an awesome site, so you guys have to check this out. Let's see if I have this framed right. Oh yeah, there it is. Okay. That looks pretty good. Okay. All right, so let's listen to Zachary Jones play the St. Louis rag a little bit. All right, so let's take a look at another performance of Tom Turpin's music. I did want to mention something about the video we were just looking at. In the beginning, if you watch it, it says that they're showing all these diverse cultures playing all this music along the pike, and also showing native tribes. And the opinion of the person that made the people that made the video is that America was trying to show that they're the best, and these are lower people, and I don't agree with that. I think it was just they were just trying to show that we have much diversity in our country, and that's what they were trying to promote. So, the glass can be half empty or half full. So just keep that in mind. I think it's about diversity and promoting diversity. Okay, so let's look at the next one. Sorry I'm slow because I have to go through and press all these different buttons to figure it out. Okay, that's not the right one. I think it's this one. Okay, so this is the Pan Am Rag by Tom Turpin. This one's pretty good. By Ismi, he's performing it. Detwad. So make sure you go to his site, subscribe, and like. He or she, I'm not sure what type of name this is, but very good. Excellent performance, as were the last two people. So let's take a look at this one, and turn my mic off or down. Okay, so I made a mistake. I'm trying not to include the MIDI piano pieces, but this is a MIDI. That means it's digitally made through the computer. But he does, he does represent all the music, so it is nice. So you can, if you want to check out the music, go to his site or her site. Okay, let's look at the next one. And the next one is, okay. Okay, so this is our artist that we had in the first video, so I wanted to highlight him, Florian Kruger. I like him because he also plays the accordion like me. And I played the accordion for some time, the piano accordion. And he is German. So you will see he's an artist from Germany, and there's another artist, the one that we just listened to, was from the Netherlands. So you can see how far and wide ragtime has gone. I mean, from being on the pike and not in the regular building, and, not being the formal music. This is the music that everybody wanted to listen to, and it's spread all across the world. Okay, so let's listen to the Harlem Rag. So this is the one, his first published piece again. And it was arranged twice. Okay, let me get the volume right. Okay, so that was Florian Kruger, and he's our highlighted artist, as I said before, and I want to show you his website. So make sure you go to his YouTube and click subscribe and like. And he is, again, he's from Germany. Okay, let me see if I get it to go to the right place. Okay, so here's his website. It is floriankruger.jimdofree.com. So here's his shop. You can see some of the stuff he's selling. I guess they're his CDs. And then he has some t-shirts with Scott Joplin on them. So that's awesome. Anyways, I like to support these artists, give them some promotion, I guess. And I started a ragtime, I don't know what you call it, like a festival last year. So hopefully I can tell you about that in some video, but it occurs in April and it is in Las Vegas. So if you would like to play in that, put it in the comments. Tell me you want to do that or send me an email. Okay, so I wanted to last look at, this is Jared Booster's site, and he has a little blurb. He talks about the St. Louis Fair. And I know a lot of this is not about Tom Turpin, but he was an integral part of this fair. And he was so important in the beginnings of ragtime because he supported a lot of these artists that came to his Rosebud Bar. And I think I'll try to get that on the picture too, so I can show you what that looked like. Let's see. Okay, so on the left, you can see, first of all, I have to put it on there. So at the bottom left corner, you can see that's the Rosebud Bar that was redone because they demolished all the buildings. So there was nothing there. So they made this, it's actually called the Scott Joplin Historic Site. And on the corner, that's that building. That's the Rosebud Bar where the ragtime artists would go and hang out and play. And I explained all that in the other video, so you have to listen to that. And this was a picture of Tom Turpin. Now, I put the article up in the old video, but it says this man looks like Tom Turpin. So I'm not sure this is him, but it pretty much does look like him. Maybe a younger version of him. And a lot of these videos about the World's Fairs, they're very popular because of the controversy about how did they make these buildings without cranes, and they only had horses and buggies, and there's no pictures of them actually putting them together. You'll see scaffolding in some pictures, but that's it. And then, the mystery behind how did they make all these statues? Well, we kind of know they use this special plaster, and they just recently found the mixture that they used. So I guess the recipe was lost for a while. But if you're an art student, you probably know how to do that. It doesn't seem like it would be that difficult, but on such a large scale with all these statues, it would be. I just don't see how they did this in 2 years, 2 or 3 years. 1,500 buildings. Okay, so let's take a look at what he's saying, and I'm going to turn my mic off.
Down of the history as it happened. We have a litany of massive old world style buildings all grouped together to fit the current narrative regurgitation of how these were all built and constructed and architected to fit together in perfect harmony. We have a 3-year period, and in that 3 years, we're told over 1,500 buildings attached by roads, built with statues of the grandest nature, Romanesque architecture, and sporting the most harmonious designs one could dream of, simply rose out of the former mounds and earthworks of St. Louis. I know I have a few detractors on every video who love it when I present the current narrative and hate it when I contradict it. But seriously, if we're looking through these images, can you really fathom any number of men using donkeys and mules and manual labor to construct this entire fairground in less than 3 years? Any one of these buildings alone, if it was placed in a different city and we were told it took over 3 years to build, would be believable. And yet we're told 1,500 of these buildings were constructed in a 3-year period. The amount of different teams of architects alone who would have to compromise their ideas and have a good amount of luck, honestly, just to be able to have this design work, let alone build it, is absolutely remarkable and certainly makes me question the narrative. As I said, 1,500 buildings certainly requires a number of different architects. Imagine trying to sync your ideas with 1,500 other people who also had their own unique ideas, which most had nothing to do with yours. Somehow, your architecture matches his architecture, matches her architecture, and at the same time, another artist is building disposable statues and fountains and roads to connect all of your architecture together. It is remarkable that this was achievable the way it was presented to us. Meanwhile, even another set of architects must then set out to work on the street level. They must connect all of these buildings, and they must perfectly design these roads and blended streets, which not only weave seamlessly through the entire expo for 75 miles, but also feature such things as massive fountains, running water throughout the expo, a lazy river which connects most of the expo, statues of over 30 feet in height which littered the streets of the expo, classically built and not just lazily placed, as well as the real dinger, electricity throughout the entirety of the expo, including the street lights on every single finished street at the expo. This is
Okay, so that I just wanted to show you, he's one of the YouTube influencers that talk about the controversy. His name is Jared Boosters, and also there's Conspiracy R Us, and there's John Levy. He's the most probably popular one. He talks about the bricks, how some of these mountains are possibly melted buildings. So there's a lot of YouTubers that are talking about it. And there was an event recently in St. Louis where we had a huge tornado go through the street where the Rosebud Cafe historic site is. And I looked it up. It said it was not damaged. So that's good. You can still go visit that. But there was a lot of devastation in St. Louis during that time. It was this year in 2025. Okay, so I think that's about it. That wraps it up. And I hope you found this interesting, and you can see how the music ties into the World Fairs. And it's great how Tom Turpin was such a wonderful artist, and he was so inviting to these other artists that made it more influential, really. So he was an important part of ragtime. So I hope you guys have a great day, and I will talk to you later. Have a great day. Bye-bye.